Going for boost. Well, I think going for boost, if you're a boost merchant, like someone like AJ or someone, you go for boost.
100% of the time.
Yes.
Always, every second of every game. Ball's going in your net, don't worry about it. Go get the boost and make sure you've got the full 100 to celebrate with the other team.
Oh God. Never. Yeah, never. Always go for ball.
Yeah.
Number one rule of Rocket League.
Welcome to the Boost Over Ball podcast, where three aggressively average Rocket League players talk about everything RLCS with your hosts, Ace, Code Red Jack, Kyle Cube, and AJ Binky. So, if you've ever wondered when the best time to go for Boost Over Ball is, you've come to the right place.
Hello and welcome back to the Boost Over Ball podcast. Today we have another exciting interview for you with ZenZer0, Rocket League content creator, caster for GL, CRL, the Draw, Pro Show matches, and so much more. He does cash tournaments every Saturday, and he's on the road to 5K on Twitch. So without further ado, we will jump right into this interview with ZenZer0.
Nice, yeah. So I do real estate now. I'm actually from Indiana, born and raised.
Where at?
French Lick, Indiana.
Okay.
Hometown. Only reason anybody would ever know is because Larry Bird is from there. It's like, 2,000 people, 2,000 population, real small town. And yeah, I grew up there. Was kind of a troublemaker as a teenager and young adult. I'm actually a recovered addict. I've been sober for over 8 years now.
Congratulations.
I appreciate that. I basically was just ready to kind of get my life together. I guess, it might be a bad thing, but I started young. I started when I was about 14. And because of that, by the time I was about 23, I was done with the life. I knew the grass was not greener over there. I was ready to make a big change. And I had just met who's my wife now. I've been married to her for a little over 8 years now. Or excuse me, yeah, we got married August 2015. Yeah, so going on 9 years. And we moved to Tennessee. So I moved to Johnson City, Tennessee in like May of 2014. It's kind of just crazy how the universe works, because I moved down here, started to kind of get my life together. I got a sales job down here, and long story short, my sales manager from where I was selling home security for AT&T, he's the guy that I now work with, that I've been working with for about 6 years now in real estate, which has been, an absolute blessing, because I get to kind of make my own schedule. If I get a big casting gig or something, I can just say, hey, you're not going to see me tomorrow, which is obviously awesome when you're trying to, go full time as a streamer and a caster. So yeah, grew up in Indiana, moved to Tennessee almost 10 years ago, which makes me feel very old to say. It's crazy how time flies. And yeah, I outside of gaming. So gaming's my big hobby. Outside of gaming, I would say, pretty much sports. I play basketball twice a week. We actually have a basketball league starting next week. Super excited for that. The men's league here in Johnson City. And then of course, wintertime. Hate the cold, but I'm right here by the mountains and I love to snowboard. So that's one big plus for that. But yeah, I started streaming during COVID time. Actually, a lot of people, I know that's a pretty common story, right? Was just sitting around at home, couldn't really leave, couldn't really do anything, and had some extra money. And crazy enough, I got a PC for Rocket League. It wasn't to stream. It was solely for Rocket League. I had about 800 hours in Rocket League. I was around like Diamond 1, Diamond 2. And everybody's saying, hey, if you want to take it serious, you got to get a PC. I just so happened to have some extra money. So got a PC in, and streaming was something I had thought about, for a while. And I said, you know what? Got all this time on my hands just sitting at home, during COVID time. Might as well try to start streaming. And yeah, I saw a lot of success over those almost 2.5 years exactly. I've got about 5,000 followers on Twitch. I have about 850 people in my Discord. um but that's been, I'm sure we'll get a little more into that, because that's been a crazy journey as well, compared to what I started off. When I started off, I wasn't doing show matches like I do now. I wasn't running tournaments like I do now. I was just more go live and do my own thing. But that's changed a lot, obviously, over these last 2.5 years.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I mean, I am familiar with the area in Indiana. I went to Purdue.
Okay, nice.
My wife's from West Lafayette, so I have been in and around the area for a while. But so you said you picked up, how long has it been since you picked up Rocket League?
So okay, so that's a funny story as well. I kind of kicked myself. Um, I actually had a friend tell me to download Rocket League. It was free on the PlayStation Store app in 2015. He said, "Hey, check this game out. It's called Rocket League. Download it and play it with me." I downloaded it. I played it once, and I said, "What in the heck? What kind of little kids game did you have me download?" I said, "This might be the worst concept of a video game I've ever seen. Like, we're playing soccer in cars." I was like, "What even is this?" Right? And so I did played it like 2 games, like I said. Didn't pick it back up again until about late 2019. It kind of stuck, but not really. And then I picked it back up late 2020, maybe early 2021, and I've been addicted to it. So I mean, it's became a big part of my life, not just gaming, but my streams all the way around it. I mean, a good 40 hours a week is just to Rocket League now, if not more.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I get it. I'm in the same boat. With I started playing when it came out, kind of played off and on, played competitively somewhat in college, and here we are, still playing this little kids game, still enjoying the hell out of it, still you know thanking my lucky stars every day that I get to talk to cool and interesting people, that we get to go to LAN events and meet cool and interesting people, and just talk about a game, which I couldn't have even imagined it was a possibility at the beginning. But
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy too, because the reason I say I kick myself is because I just turned 34 in October, um, which is pretty old for Rocket League, right? Rocket League is a game that takes a ton of hours to kind of master each mechanic, and kind of get comfortable on the pitch. So I'm like, that's a big reason I kick myself, because I'm like, man, I was able to hit GC2 in my 30s. Imagine had I just stuck with it from 2015. I was in my mid 20s. Maybe I could have went pro, or at least when SSL first dropped, I could have hit that. But who knows? But regardless, I'm a big believer that things happen for a reason. Time happens for a reason. So I'm not too mad, but I still can't help but think about that sometimes. Just like, what if I would have just stuck with it from right when I started in 2015?
yeah, no, I get it, and it's one of those big things. It's like, oh, if I was born a little bit later, like I could have, like, you
Right.
really could have done something with this. But again, I'm just happy to be involved in any kind of ride associated with this, like you mentioned. So but you started out playing for yourself. Streaming came along after that. What kind of pushed you towards casting, doing show matches, things like that?
Okay, so funny story too about me starting streaming. A really really good buddy that I grew up with. he started streaming and he was playing like COD. He was a little more of a variety streamer. And he's the one that actually pushed me over. He said, "Man, I'm having a blast streaming." He's like, "You've been talking about it a while. Just do it." And what's crazy is he found out pretty quickly that streaming was not for him. But it stuck with me, right? And it was just so funny because he's the one that pushed me over the edge. And then, I'm the one that really ran with it. But how I got into casting and all that. So when I started streaming, I streamed every day, short streams, just like an hour and a half, and I would do the tournament with one of my good buddies, the 9 o'clock tourney every day, and I started to notice that I had a lot of trouble reading chat at the same time as playing. And I personally, when I watch somebody streaming, um, I want them to talk to me. You know what I mean? Like that's just kind of my thing. Um, so I started saying, hey, let's throw up some custom matches. Let's do some custom tourneys. That way I can kind of not really care, too much about winning or losing. I can kind of prioritize chat or even not play, right? And basically, downtimes in the chat. So I do a tournament, everybody'd hop in. Maybe I didn't even play, right? Because if it was an uneven amount of players, I would play. But if it was an even amount, I would pair everybody up and then I would sit. So when the tourneys would start, a lot of times the chat would kind of die, especially for the first round or two, because everybody was, in the game and playing. So when the chat wasn't moving too much, I would just naturally kind of start to cast what was happening. And I had no idea at all, about casting. I just kind of did what came naturally to me. And a lot of my community was like, man, you sound better than some of the casters we hire or that we bring on. Like, you have to try it out. And I was like, I wasn't really sold on the idea at first. But I was in IGL. We actually won a couple IGL championships, but it was back when right when I got a PC, so I was like plat and diamond, and I said, you know what, I'll reach out to the guys at IGL, see if they'll let me cast, and I'll try it out. And I did, and it was all right. I didn't find the passion. Just funny thing, because just like Rocket League in general, I didn't really feel that passion for it at first. And IGL, dissolved, and this was probably 2-3 months into casting, and I kind of just stopped casting for like 6-7 months, maybe even a little bit longer than that. And then about I would say 6 months ago, if not 6 months ago, pretty close to that long ago, I say, you know what, let me try to get back into casting. Let me, give it another whirl. And yeah, the second time when I went back to it, I really started to like it. My community was a lot bigger at that point, and I had a lot more SSLs and even like bubble pros. And I think that was the difference for me. Was once when I first started casting, I was casting more like diamond gameplay, champ gameplay, which is cool. But once I started to get a taste of casting, SSLs and even bubble pros and stuff like that, that's what like really, really got me hooked. I mean, that was a pretty easy transition into show matches. So I started doing community show matches, for the community that'd been there, with me the whole time. And I say, you know what, let's start doing maybe some cash prize show matches. And I got kind of lucky. I just had a random community member say, hey, here's $100, throw a cash prize show match. And then they would had another community member that kind of do the same thing. So I mean, we've had Wavy and Chronic play each other. We had Azap and Cosmic not that long ago. We've had Flitz on there, Creams, Lev. We've had a lot of pretty big names on there since I kind of started hosting these show matches.
Fair, interesting. So, like, it's kind of been, similar to Rocket League, a gradual entry into something, and then
Yeah.
you've kind of have found like your niche, and now you're trying to build out from there, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. So, do you have a favorite aspect of it? Do you like, are you still, I love playing Rocket League, or are you, have you started to enjoy casting or the content creation side more?
Whew, that's a very, very tough question. Just because I love them both. It's pretty close. I'll say that number one, it's pretty close. I do love playing Rocket League, but I would say I'm leaning more towards the content creation and casting side of it. Now, of course, it's a little easier if I get off work, I go to the gym, I come home, I can just, plop down in my robe and play Rocket League as opposed to when I stream or cast. Especially when I stream, I take a shower, I get dressed up nice, I have all my lighting on and stuff. So sometimes it is really nice to just kind of chill out and still game as a hobby, right? But no, I would definitely say that I enjoy the casting and content creation side, especially now that the majority of my casting is Bubble Pro. Like I got to cast for Justin Sunday during the draw. That was pretty unreal. So yeah, I would say certainly the content creation side is starting to be my favorite, and specifically getting to cast for some of these legends that would blow my mind that they would come into my stream or anything like that. And now I'm like hosting these lobbies or getting invited to stuff like the draw, getting to cast for these players.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I similarly, like we've been to some of the RLCS lands last season and have been fortunate enough to be able to interview some of the players, but it's like like this kid's 16, 17, 18 years old. Why am I nervous to do this?
Right.
It's like but they're so good at their craft. It's
Yeah.
you can look up to them without actually necessarily looking up to them as a human being, but like their ability, just the way that they're able to handle things, it's a whole different world. So I'm sure it's got to be like equally rewarding, but also maybe a little bit nerve-wracking to kind of find the success that you've seen recently. Like you said, being able to cast some pretty high profile show matches. I'm certainly with casting, with Wavy looking like he might join, Hey Bro, with
Yeah.
Cosmic being in Salt Mine. Some pretty high profile players seemingly, looking to kind of be more center stage as we move forward in RLCS. But it's got to be kind of surreal to do that.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I tell you, Wavy's really, really cool. Same thing with 5 Up. They both just kind of randomly stumbled upon my streams. And Wavy's been coming for a while now. Same with 5 Up. I'm real good buddies with him, and they're both just super down to earth. You'd think a lot of people, a lot of players that are that good comes with kind of an ego, and I'm sure they have an ego on the field, but when it comes to, actually person to person, they're super down to earth, super cool. So yeah, it is a bit surreal. And I will say my most nervous time ever, it was funny because I had never been nervous casting, but when Chronic joined the party, Wavy was already in there, and I already knew Wavy pretty well, right? He was in my stream all the time and stuff. But when Chronic joined, I noticed my hand was a little shaky and I was a little nervous, and I was in my own head. That moment where it's supposed to come natural, but you're kind of in your head thinking about it. And I shook it off pretty quickly and laughed about it. But yeah, that was the first time kind of casting. I had felt that feeling competing, as I said, in IGL, even when I was on plat, when those finals came around, grand finals and everything, I'm telling you, my knees would be hitting the desk. I'd be shaking during that first game. And, obviously that's the thrill of it, right? That's why we kind of do what we do. But yeah, same thing with casting. And now I'm starting to get used to it, right? As this was my third draw in a row that I've done. I'm starting to do a lot more show matches. Starting to get a little more used to these names, but yeah, that was a big one. The AV Chronic show match, it definitely had me nervous. I'm sure you could tell the first 5 or so minutes that I was casting. You could probably hear it in my voice.
Yeah, no, I can imagine the same thing. And one thing that I've certainly talked about, and we've talked about here on the show quite a lot actually, is imposter syndrome. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept. Is that something that you feel like you deal with? Is that something that you have kind of figured out how to handle?
So I would say I would say no. I'm trying to think of a way to say this without sounding like cocky or egotistical because I'm not. That's not how I am. But no, I kind of feel like I'm destined for big things, right? Like no matter what I do, I'm pretty good at, right? Like real estate, I came in, absolutely killed it. You know, when it came to like school, grades, sports, I always killed it. So it's kind of like again, I don't want to sound cocky because I definitely don't. I'm very humble and I'm very like grateful for these opportunities. But with that being said, this is where I knew this was coming from when I started streaming. Right, I didn't know maybe this exactly, but I knew that I would have some success. So imposter syndrome, I would say, is not something I really have a lot of trouble with. I would say more of the I'm sure you're familiar with like Dunning Kruger.
Yeah.
A little more of that, where sometimes I kind of like the more I cast, the more I stream, the more I'm like critiquing myself and like wondering like, man, what can I work on in casting? How can I get? So it's pretty much the better I get at casting, the more I compare myself to these greats, and I'm like, oh, I'm not as good as them. You know what I mean? So I would say I have a little bit more of that as opposed to the imposter syndrome.
That's fair. I mean, hey, being confident is never a bad thing. I mean, certainly I don't know that that's like some people I feel like have a tendency to like worry about coming off as cocky. But I don't know. Like to me, like cocky is like being boastful, being like, I'm the greatest. But like
Right, right.
you can be confident in yourself and still be humble about it. So like I see no issues with that. But that's awesome to hear that you don't struggle with that. I know like Jorby and like some of the other like RLCS casters have really talked about it. Being the voice clip of Rocket League has got to be kind of a weird thing to deal with. But that's fantastic to hear that that's not something that you deal with because it can be hard to kind of cope sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if I get to where Jorvy kind of is, now maybe that's a conversation that we come back to. You know what I mean? It could feel different, certainly, kind of at that level. Because I could understand that. But yeah, I love what you just said. Being able to be confident but humble in the same time, because obviously, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not huge, right? I'm not some real big creator or a really big caster. For a Rocket League creator, I'm pretty decent size. But yeah, I know I have so much to grow and so much work. And again, I'm so grateful. It's all really thanks to my community. Without them, I wouldn't be where I'm at. But at the same time, yeah, I'm confident. I know that this is what I started it for, and this is kind of just the beginning.
That's awesome and great to hear. But we've heard a little bit about you now, and now we can kind of move into Rocket League as a whole.
Yeah.
Kind of, I'm interested in hearing some of your thoughts and some of your opinions on kind of the state of the game now, some of the rumors that we've been hearing floating around. But we'll kind of start with a bigger one, and then maybe like dial it back a little bit. But it's as we're recording this, it is December 4th.
Yeah.
Trading.
Yep.
They announce it. A large pillar of the community is outraged. In my opinion, a little bit rightly so.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on the removal of trading in Rocket League?
So I'll say I'm part of that group that is I don't want to say outraged because I'm not as mad as some others are, but I am mad about it. I think that it's the wrong choice. I think that they certainly should possibly, which again I don't know what they're they kind of cryptically I don't know the word I'm looking for, but they kind of vaguely said this is why we're doing it. Didn't really give us a real reason. So part of me has high hopes, but the other part of me is like, man, I wish they could have just explored some other avenues, like potentially stopping the trading of credits or something along those lines, right? That way we could still at least trade, even though I know that would still deal a big blow. But yeah, I think it was the wrong choice. I think that it shows that they are very, very out of touch with the community, what the community wants, how the community kind of, just how the ecosystem of Rocket League, or especially the economy of Rocket League, kind of runs. But I also think that we're part of the vocal minority. I think more than we realize, especially myself anyway, at first, don't care. They just don't care, right? They're not big into trading. They might, yeah, ask for an item or two, but for the most part, it's going to be business as usual for them. And I think that's, partially why, even though there was a lot of outrage, Epic still didn't really even comment on it, and I think that was the worst sign out of everything. To be honest with you, even more so than trading going away. I think with the amount of backlash and outrage they received, them not saying a word, I think that was the worst part of it all.
Yeah, and I mean, we here on the show have been pounding the table for, but like, we've talked to people in the past and like have been banging the table for communication.
Yeah,
Right? That's like the biggest thing, right? It's like we've talked about before, and my example was like you can say a lot without saying anything. Like, hey, we understand that you're upset about the trading. There's a grander plan in the like
right.
in the works. Like, please be patient. Like, that's not saying anything, but also at the same time acknowledging that people are frustrated and saying, like, look, we have a plan. It may not be what you anticipated, but like we're not killing the game.
Exactly. And I don't think they realize, that would do wonders for the common Rocket League player, and especially, someone like me or you that, you do the podcast, I create my content, a lot of our life revolves around Rocket League, so it's scary when they're not communicating one bit, and it's like, man, I'm like, dependent part of my future on this game, and we can't even get a hey, we're sorry. But exactly what you said, hey, we're sorry, that you feel this way, but in the larger picture, this is just something that had to happen. That would help so much, and that's the thing. If they're losing a lot of money from Rocket League, or not making, what they should, and getting rid of trading is going to help that, and it's going to help the game thrive and, make more money for them, which in turn you would think, get put back into the game, then maybe it's a good thing, but how do we know? They haven't said a word, so we can't even speculate on that because we get zero communication.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we like the update most recently that they posted about 2 weeks ago, like 2 weeks out from the removal of trading and the season end, talking about the menu changes, talking about, a couple of future plans, and saying like, hey, there will be much more to come in the new year. Just stay tuned. Like,
Yep.
We did an entire episode on that. We almost did 2 episodes talking about that, right? So like we praised Epic for, letting us peek behind the curtain a little bit, so to speak. But like the overall theme and the overall outcome of that was, well, they did exactly what we wanted to, but it was 2 steps backward and 1 step forward.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
So like,
yeah,
they're trying to
not,
solve a problem that they created themselves.
right. And that announcement, that not including a word about trading, was also the same thing exactly. Like, it was like, okay, this is what we wanted. They I noticed that they brought up dealing with smurfing, and I almost wonder, in my head, I was like, I almost wonder if this whole trading fiasco wasn't a thing, if they would have just kind of not even mentioned smurfing, because they really never have too much, and they never really seem to do too much about it, which I think it could be a pretty easy fix to deter the majority of it. But I was like, that was the cookie that they gave us. Like, we're not going to say anything about trading, but you guys have been complaining about smurfing for years, so we're gonna finally, make an announcement about doing something, with that.
Right. And I mean, like, I don't, it is a real big problem right now, but also like, Che talked about this as well. And, I completely, can relate to it, but who's playing Rocket League right now? It's the psychos. It's the people that do it for,
Right.
for part of a job, for their full-time job, or people who just are straight up addicted. Right.
Yep.
Like, all the casual players are not there. It's been, since August, where we've had, RLCS. This is the longest hiatus from RLCS that we've ever had. Still kind of as of right now, no end in sight. Like they've said, an announcement's coming probably mid January, which I don't doubt that that's happening, right? But like it seems like a lot of the hype around the best world championships that they've ever had has kind of died out. Like a lot of the casual players have put the game down for a little bit, gone back to OG Fortnite, gone back to the big Fortnite update, anything like that. But I think that once an RLCS announcement comes back, I think that a lot of the issues are purely just like the size of the player base, right? So like bringing back the casual people will also help to deal with some of the issues that they're currently having. So again, it all comes back to transparency. It all comes back to just being a little bit more open. And again, like you can say nothing and say everything at the same time. Like, hey, we know you guys are curious about RLCS. We're working on some back end stuff. Expect an announcement mid-January.
Yeah,
Like,
that would be absolutely huge. I mean, but I'm also a big believer that open direct communication is the best recipe for anything, whether that's relationships, a job, a manager employee relationship, a company to their customers, anything. Open direct communication, that's what we want, and I just wish that we would get a tenth of what Fortnite gets, because we saw something happened. I can't remember now, but it was a few weeks back. But something happened with Fortnite. They were removing certain skins from creative mode, right? And there was a bunch of backlash from it and outrage. It took them, I think, less than 48 hours to come out and say, "Hey, we're sorry. We're gonna kind of revisit this. We see that you're mad. We're gonna kind of revisit this and kind of let you know." And that was just a punch in the gut. I'm sitting here like, it's been months with the trading and you haven't said a word. And when Fortnite community gives you guys backlash, it took you 48 hours to come back and say, "Hey, we're sorry. We're gonna kind of revisit it. Stay tuned."
yeah, and I mean, like we've kind of, it hasn't like officially been confirmed yet, but like it pretty much has been confirmed that the reason that they get rid of trading is for Fortnite Racing, which will have like your presets and stuff that'll be transferable from the Rocket League game into Fortnite, for use in that game mode whenever it is that goes live, and making trading still possible cross game and cross platform would be an absolute nightmare. So like from that perspective, I understand why they're getting rid of it, but also at the same time, I don't know that it was necessarily the right move. But also in the long run, like if putting Rocket League directly into Fortnite, they have the Octane in Fortnite itself, but having a dedicated mode in the Fortnite menu, if that brings across some of the casual player base and some of the the attention that Fortnite is currently getting, then like, because I can see like Ninja, like Tim the Tatman, some of the big like creators that are currently playing Fortnite, playing something close to Rocket League, right? And that is good exposure, right? So like if that ends up bringing a ton of people, a big player base, more viewership, all that stuff, then realistically that this is the right move. But
and I fully agree with that.
But until we see anything, you don't know, right? And so like, until that happens, everyone still has, and deservedly so, has the right to be upset about it, especially the people, I thankfully was not one of them, but some of the people that like their livelihood was affected, right?
Right. Same. I wasn't, luckily that wasn't I wouldn't even say it was a part of my content creation there for a while. And this has been, probably over a year or so. I did used to, where I do my cash prize tournaments now, I used to do credits instead. But I moved away from that. But yeah, I know some really, really great creators that their entire everything, they're traders first, and then they're giveaway streamers second, because they have an abundance of items, right? Or because they're really grinding in the trading scene, they get their credits for a third of the price, and then they get these items for even lower. You see what I'm saying? They're getting huge discounts on these otherwise expensive items that a community member couldn't buy. They couldn't say, "Hey, I got $400, $500 to buy this item. It's okay. I'm gonna give it away. I know it's a $500 item, but I technically got it for $150." right? So I'm gonna do a big giveaway on it. And yeah, I know multiple creators that are wonderful people that are gonna have to do a full. I would be surprised to see them stick with Rocket League just because I'm sure this left a bad taste in their mouth. But yeah, their content's gonna have a full on shift.
Yeah, I mean, like you think about like John Salmon, right? He's like, the first
Yep.
Rocket League content creator to hit 1 million subs on YouTube. You think about like Athena. You think about like Phantom Ace. Not so much Phantom anymore, but like the crate wars, the item drops, like the crate openings, the pumpkin openings. That's not something that's going to happen anymore. You're going to get 5 pumpkins or 5 jack-o'-lanterns or the New Year items or whatever they decide to theme the season reward drops, but you're like, that's just not going to be a thing anymore. You can't do crate openings because you can't get more than a couple unless you want to save up for a while. But it's really taking away a whole aspect of the game from people who view that
and live that. That's their could be their might be their livelihood, but it's definitely their hobby, their number one hobby. So yeah, I mean I will say one part of me just loves that video games have come this far, right? Because like I said, I just turned 34. So when I was a kid, if you tried to tell somebody, hey, yeah, my career is going to be video games or anything to do with video games, you would get laughed at, right? Or like, be serious, grow up. You know what I mean? So for that to even be a thing, part of me is like, that's awesome. But the fact that little minute decision from a company, they don't even think about it, can actually change the livelihood of people. It's wild.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's crazy to think about like all the different people in the community and in the scene that have been impacted by it. But hopefully, eventually down the line, we can look back and say, hey, this was actually a good thing. While it may have hurt people, like this has really helped Rocket League blossom and grow as an esport, as a game, in popularity, in profitability. So then in turn the esport gets bigger because they can allocate bigger prize pools and stuff.
Well, you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but that was the crazy part with the RLCS, is they did just have like record breaking, views and everything for RLCS. And that, I feel like, in my opinion, would be the worst time to say, hey, let's take a break. But I do have the hopes, the upside that you're talking about. Cause in my opinion, putting Rocket League racing in Fortnite, I just don't like it. I think it's a little bit of a slap in the face, but I agree with you. If, and that's a big if we see an influx of popularity and we see streamers like Ninja, Tim the Tab, and stuff like that say, hey, let's try out Rocket League. We're gonna do Rocket League today. That could really change the course of a game that's already 8 years old, crazy enough, or maybe almost 9 years old. um it could change it. And yeah, if we do see success from it, I'll be the first one to say, wow, I was wrong. Sorry for being so angry at you, Epic, but you still should have communicated with us more.
Yeah, no, I think that you're totally right. But I think we've touched on that for quite a while. I was going to change topics a little bit.
Sure.
Were you able to attend any of the LAN events last season?
So no, so I've never been to a LAN event or a TwitchCon, and it's something I would love to do. So I mentioned that I cast for Great Lakes CRL. They're doing a LAN, but no, I haven't been to any of the LANs yet, unfortunately, and it's something I would really love to do. I haven't been to any of the RLCS stuff or even TwitchCon, both things I'd really love to do. I mentioned I was a caster for Great Lakes CRL. They have their LAN coming up next year, and I'm invited to it, and I really want to figure out a way to go. But long story short, I have 3 big dogs, a husky, a malamute, and an Akita, and the 2 males will get into they'll fight each other, right? And the bigger male, the about 100-pound Malamute, we rescued him. He was abused really badly. So dropping him off in like a daycare or something like that doesn't really work. And yeah, it makes it extremely hard for me to travel because we have to bring one of them, usually the husky. We usually bring one of the dogs with us wherever we go, which means I have to drive. And of course, me being here in Tennessee, I think Boston would have been the closest one, but even that would have been like I think 14 hours or 12-hour drive, something like that for me. But yeah, unfortunately, I've not been to a land yet, but I desperately want to go to one, even if it's like I said, like the Great Lakes CRL land or something smaller. But obviously, TwitchCon RLCS lands, yes, that's what I'm gonna figure a way out. I've already told my wife, she's kind of on board with it, that one of these next times I have to get there.
Yeah, no, I can't speak highly enough of the events that RLCS has put on and the lands that they've had. It's a experience unlike any other, and I would highly recommend that you do at some point try to make it happen. So I completely understand though from a responsibilities and real life aspect, because that stuff does come first and it does happen. But I highly recommend that you make one if you can.
Yeah, and that's what I'm kind of hoping. Like I said, I think no matter what, I'm gonna with both, with TwitchCon and RLCS land. I think both not only would be amazing, but I think that it would help me build relationships that could literally help my career. So I really really want to go. But part of me is hoping that one of these next that are announced are like, maybe they do like Atlanta or Charlotte. Charlotte would be amazing. Now I know those aren't Las Vegas, LA, anything like that, but if they announce something that's within 6, 7, 8 hours of me, it's a definite. But I want to say it's a definite regardless. I'll be getting into one soon.
Fair. Okay. Good to hear. Um, Next then, what does we're approaching the end of the year. This is kind of the time, at least for me and for us over here on the podcast, we kind of reflect on how the year went and kind of start to think about some goals and some ideas for how we can improve our content, improve ourselves moving forward. Is that something that you've done? Do you have any goals that you've laid out for yourself going forward?
Yes, absolutely. But I will say, um, it's right now I have more of the I'm a big fan of goals, right? I think it's huge, and I think it's huge to have the long-term goals, the big picture goals, I should say, and then break it down into smaller, more achievable goals that you can actually kind of track your progress. And I'll say I haven't done a lot of the smaller goals, but I do have some big goals. And number one is the casting. I want to get my Liquipedia, so that's a small goal actually that I'm work towards. And I don't know if you're familiar with how hard it is to get a Liquipedia as a caster, but it's pretty hard. Even with me doing 3 draws, that's only enough. That's the hard part. So okay, so you have to have 150 casting points and at least 2 B tier events or above, and the draw is a B tier event. So that part of it's done, but the 150 points, I mean, I don't even think I'm halfway through, which it's all right. It's just a matter of time. Because again, the hard part is the B tier events, but that's a big goal I have for myself. But basically, the big picture goal that I really that I'll be working towards very, very hard in 2024 is going full time as a creator, but casting, so kind of a mix, kind of a hybrid, right? That's a big reason that I do cast, is because I want to be a full-time content creator. I want to be able to stream every day, maybe even twice on the weekends, right? Right now I only get to probably stream between 15-20 hours a week. If you include casting time, it's probably closer to like 30. But yeah, and basically I realized, I have an awesome community. I get pretty good numbers, but I'm nowhere, near where I need to be to financially take that leap. But casting is kind of my way in, where it's like, okay, if I'm making X amount a week just from casting, that actually allows me to step away from real estate and say, hey, I'm live every single day now. This is my job. So yeah, that's the big goal, and I do need to create a lot of little goals on the way. And number one for that is getting my Liquipedia for casting. That's a huge milestone, right? And kind of you get taken a lot more serious. I think I don't know. I could be exaggerating that a little bit, but to me, you get taken a lot more serious once they can just look you up and you have your own Liquipedia page.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. So one of my one of the co-hosts here has a Liquipedia page as a caster and commentator and
Nice.
analyst, and that was like a, hey, guess what I just got today.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's like the ultimate goal, right? It's like just a website,
Yeah.
like just a profile, but like it's like kind of the ultimate validation for people in the Rocket League scene to have their own Liquipedia page.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Can I ask who is it?
iAtomic.
Okay, actually, I know I've never like listened or anything, but I recognize the name for sure. That's awesome. And yeah, I'm kind of speed running it. I won't lie to you. A lot of casters, I would say, if you looked at the average length that it kind of takes a caster to get their Liquipedia page, well, most of them probably don't get them right. But if you just look at the ones that have, it's usually a couple of years, typically. At least a year or so. So I'm kind of speed running. As I told you, I did a couple months of casting, and now I'm probably like 6 months back into it, maybe a little bit less, 4 or 5 months back into it, and I'm just kind of trying to catch up for lost time and kind of speed run it a little bit. And yeah, that's a massive goal for me that I'm really working hard to pursue. It's like when it comes to casting, I got tunnel vision on that, and then boom, when I hit that, then it's next goal, next step.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I wish you the best of luck with the speed running of getting your own Liquipedia page. That's certainly a fantastic milestone to shoot for, and something that I feel like anybody in the Rocket League scene would love to have.
Yeah.
But now is the time of the episode where we like to roll out the red carpet. Why don't you tell people what you got going on, where they can follow you or support you, and any of the links that you'd like to plug.
Gotcha. Awesome. I appreciate it. So I would say number one by far is Twitch. Twitch.tv/ZenZer0. The O is a zero, not an O, but Twitch pulls it up regardless. Like, it's pretty easy to find. That's the main place. I'm live every Thursday through Sunday. I go live around 9-10 p.m. Eastern, and every stream is about the community. For the longest time, I just played viewer tournaments, viewer games, but now Thursday and Sunday is community show matches, and we do all ranks. It doesn't matter if you're gold or top 100, you can come and do a show match on my stream. So Thursday, Sundays are community show matches, and then Friday and Saturday, that's when I do the viewer tournaments, viewer games, all that good stuff. Every Saturday, 11 p.m. Eastern, we do a cash prize tourney. Also find me on Twitter, ZenZer0TTV. That's my number one social media. I won't lie. I've slacked on my socials for a long time. So I'm really starting to kind of take them serious. And Twitter is the one that I've been very, very consistent with. But you can also find me, same name, ZenZer0TTV, on TikTok and YouTube. I do upload my pro show matches onto YouTube, and going to start posting a lot more short form. I have a decent bit on TikTok, but going to start being a lot more consistent with that. But yeah, main place, twitch.tv/ZenZer0. That's the majority. That's where you can typically find me.
Awesome. And all the links that Zen just talked about, we will put in the episode description, and they will get posted out in our Discord when the episode goes live. So you feel free to grab those. Feel free to grab those. And now we like to end off all of our episodes asking everybody the same question. When is the best time to go boost over ball?
when's the best time to go boost over ball? I mean, I will say anytime. I had such a blast on here anytime, but in actual Rocket League, that's never. I mean, unless you're not the one that's supposed to be going for the ball at the moment, and you are actually going to double commit, and you unknowingly were about to double commit, and then you say, you know what, that boost looks juicy, and you you actually did the right thing in that moment, allowing your teammate to go. But nah, if we're talking about the podcast, anytime, because I had an absolute blast talking with you.
Yeah, I did too. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. Thank you so much for coming on and lending us your time. It's a Monday when we recorded, a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, more than Epic does anyway. But thank you for lending us your valuable time. I really appreciated talking with you. And again, all of his links will be available in the episode description. I hope you guys enjoyed this interview as much as we did. So thank you again, and I will talk to you next time.
Of course, yeah, and of course, big shout out Uncle Shay for hooking me up with you and getting me on the pod. Absolute GOAT streamer as well.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you for checking out that interview with ZenZer0, and we'd like to thank you guys so much for listening. And we'd also like to remind you to please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, join our Discord, rate us wherever you listen to podcasts, as it really helps us out, helps us grow, helps us build our viewer base, and make the best and most exciting content that we possibly can. Also, check out our YouTube, our Twitch, our TikTok, and our merch store, which is now has items for Christmas, such as ornaments and things like that. All of these links and more can be found on our website at boostoverball.com. And from us here on the show, as always, remember to choose Boost over Ball.
Thank you for listening to the Boost Over Ball podcast. Make sure to check out our website, www.boostoverball.com, and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts.